Most people enter the workplace believing the same thing, that if they do their job well, if they stay consistent, if they prove themselves over time, someone will notice. What most people don't realize is that in many offices, promotions are not reactions. They are decisions. Decisions made quietly, repeated privately, agreed upon long before effort is measured. This is the story of how one man learned that truth, not because he failed, but because he paid attention too late. His name was Brian. Brian was never the loudest person in the room. He didn't interrupt meetings or compete for attention. He didn't speak unless he had something useful to add, and because of that, people trusted him. When systems failed, he fixed them. When deadlines slipped, he stayed back. When others made mistakes, he covered quietly. Over time, Brian became dependable, not admired, not celebrated, just depended on. The office itself looked professional and orderly. Glass walls, polite greetings, structured meetings. On the surface, everything felt fair. Brian believed it was. Miriam worked hard, but not in the same way Brian did. She understood early that effort alone didn't move people. Connection did. She noticed what the manager liked, what irritated him, what made him feel respected. She agreed publicly, even when she privately disagreed. She laughed at his jokes, echoed his opinions during meetings. Sometimes she brought lunch. She'd place it on her desk untouched, then later offer it casually. "I won't finish this. You can have it." Sometimes she stayed back and not to work, but to talk, not about tasks, about people. Miriam listened carefully to her coworkers, when frustrations were shared quietly, when complaints were whispered after meetings, when people vented about decisions that didn't make sense. She never argued. She collected. Later, those same concerns reached the manager, reframed as observations or team feedback. She rarely mentioned names, but the message was clear. Over time, she became valuable. Not because she solved problems but because she reported them. To the manager, this felt like loyalty. To Brian, it felt like something else, though he couldn't yet name it. Brian didn't flatter. He believed professionalism meant honesty. When shortcuts were suggested that risked quality, he raised concerns, calmly, respectfully, not confrontational, but consistent. Each time he did, the room shifted slightly. The manager stopped inviting his opinion as often. Meetings began to move past him more quickly. Meanwhile, Miriam aligned faster. She nodded, supported decisions instantly, defended leadership openly. 2 approaches. Only one was rewarded. When the internal promotion was announced, Brian felt confident. He didn't campaign, didn't lobby, didn't sell himself. He prepared, reviewed past projects, documented achievements, trusted his record. The interview, however, felt strange. The panel nodded before he finished speaking. Questions stayed shallow. There was no curiosity, only politeness. It felt less like evaluation and more like confirmation. Miriam's interview ran longer. Laughter filtered through the glass walls. The mood felt relaxed. By the end of the day, Brian felt something settle quietly in his chest. Not fear, clarity. The announcement came the next morning. An internal message. Short, professional. Miriam had been promoted. There was no mention of other candidates, no appreciation note, no reassurance. Brian received nothing. No rejection email. No encouragement, just silence. Around him, congratulations spread quickly. Someone leaned over and said, "Your time will come." Brian smiled, but something hardened quietly inside him. Miriam didn't announce authority. She simply exercised it. She assigned tasks Brian once led, corrected him publicly, gently, confidently, used phrases like, "We already discussed this," when they hadn't. And because no one challenged her, those statements became truth. The manager watched, said nothing. When Brian raised concerns privately, choosing his words carefully, he wasn't accusatory. He spoke about clarity, process, respect. The response was brief. "You need to support the new structure." That was when Brian understood. This promotion wasn't about growth. It was about control. Brian wasn't demoted, not officially, but his influence faded. Projects moved away from him. His calendar developed gaps. Meetings happened without him. He worked harder, stayed later, delivered faster. But now, his effort built someone else's visibility. Ideas he shared privately resurfaced publicly through Miriam. Solutions he proposed came back with her name attached. At home, Brian replayed conversations. What did I miss? Where did I go wrong? The answer, when it arrived, wasn't comforting. He hadn't gone wrong at all. One evening, Brian stayed late. The office was quiet. As he packed up, voices drifted from a meeting room. The manager, another senior lead. They spoke freely about loyalty, about safe choices, about who could be trusted not to challenge decisions. Miriam's name came up. She understands how things work. She's on the same page. Brian's name followed briefly. "He's good," the manager said, "but he asks too many questions." That was all. Brian stood still, not shocked, just confirmed. Everything aligned clearly. Brian's story isn't unusual. That's what makes it important. This story teaches us that many promotions are not about who works hardest, but about who feels safest to power. It shows us how silence is often mistaken for loyalty and patience mistaken for availability. How agreeing becomes more valuable than thinking. How proximity replaces performance. It explains why effort sometimes leads nowhere, while visibility changes everything. This isn't about bitterness, it's about awareness. Some workplaces reward excellence, others reward alignment. And knowing the difference can save you years of confusion. Not every workplace is unfair, but every workplace has rules. The danger is believing the wrong ones.